Maintaining a relationship with a narcissistic person is one of the most exhausting, draining things that you can ever have to do. But what is it about narcissism that is so draining and exhausting for other people? In this video, I'm going to go over several detailed examples of why it is narcissists are so exhausting. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. It can be somewhat intuitive to understand why narcissists are so exhausting when we look at the way that they view themselves. Narcissists feel like the center of the universe. They feel as if they are the sun and all of the people in their life are like planets or satellites revolving, orbiting around them. So it kind of makes sense that when they think of themselves as this gigantic center of all existence, that they would somehow extract all the energy from the satellites revolving around them. But how exactly do they do this? In what ways do they do this? I think it's important to go over this because if you're accustomed to having a narcissist in your life, if you've actually gotten used to a lot of what goes along with that, you might not even realize how exhausted you are. You might not even realize how draining it is and all of the ways you're giving up your energy every day to somebody that's really not giving you anything in return. The first example I can think of is how I've mentioned in several other videos that narcissists tend to talk at you endlessly about things that you maybe don't care about. And this can be really, really exhausting when the narcissist in your life is somebody that you really need to maintain some kind of civil relationship with, somebody that you really can't afford to just upset, like a parent maybe that you live with, or a boss at your job, or your romantic partner. When you have a narcissist close to you in your life that talks at you, and talks at you and talks and talks and talks, anytime that you try to cut that off and get away from that person, you can't really do it without offending them. And depending on the type of relationship you have with them, you can't always afford to upset them. This can be so exhausting, so draining to feel an obligation to sit and listen to someone talk to you for 3 or 4 hours about something that either you are not interested in or something that's just not true. Sometimes they will go on and on about things that are just nonsense, or things that are maybe even offensive. They might go on and on about political ideas you don't agree with or religious ideas you don't agree with, and you might not feel comfortable telling them how you feel about things or what you think about things. Or they could be going on and on and on about things that are very manipulative. They might be saying things purposefully to emotionally manipulate you, and even if you're aware that that's what they're doing, if you're in that kind of situation, you might feel obligated to just sit there and listen and pretend that you're buying into it. And this is unique to narcissism because narcissists feel like they're entitled to your time and your attention, that you owe it to them to sit and listen to them because they are the center of the universe and you owe them everything. And this can make you feel obligated to sit and listen. This can make you feel obligated to give your time and energy to them because they may be manipulating you into believing that you owe it to them because they believe that you owe it to them. Or you may just be too afraid to push back, too afraid to try to cut the conversation off because, like I said, maybe this is your boss. You don't want to upset your boss. Or maybe this is your romantic partner and you don't want to upset them. You don't want to start a 3-hour argument. It might be a lot more pleasant to sit and listen to somebody talk to you for 3 hours about something you don't care about than it will be to start a 3-hour argument about nothing. Either way, this is emotionally exhausting and draining because some narcissists don't really care if you're listening or not as long as you stay put and pretend you're listening. But some narcissists might pay attention to your slightest movements. They might pay attention to whether or not you're looking at them. They might fly off the handle if you glance at the clock. So this is even more exhausting to have to pretend that you're interested in whatever it is they're going on about. But of course, the ways that narcissists drain our energy only start here. They certainly don't end here. Another way that narcissists drain our energy is just endless demands. Nothing we can ever do for a narcissist will ever be enough, and nothing that we do for them will ever be appreciated. There's no gratitude. There's no recognition of the effort we've put in. There's just constant dissatisfaction, disappointment, and some kind of amnesia for any of the things you've ever done for them in the past. Because narcissists think of themselves as the center of existence, they feel entitled to you. They look at you as some kind of servant, that you owe it to them. Just because they exist, you owe it to them to give them absolutely everything that you're able to give them, and everything you're able to give them is still never going to be enough. And if the narcissist is somebody whose relationship you need to maintain for whatever reason, you will spend a lot of your time running around circles trying to do the things that they want you to do, trying to pacify them somehow. It's like throwing things into a black hole and just throwing and throwing and throwing whatever it is that they are demanding in the moment. And it leaves you very little time to do things for yourself or for other people, because no matter how much you've done, it's never enough. It's like trying to do anything for yourself that doesn't directly benefit them makes you feel like you're stealing time from them, because that's how they feel. They feel like if you take any of your time for yourself, if you spend your energy, spend what you have to benefit you in a way that doesn't directly benefit them, that you're somehow robbing them because you owe them everything. And it's pretty exhausting to have to steal your time back in order to be able to do anything that you want to do for yourself. In order to do things for yourself, feel like you have to sneak these things in the little pockets of time you have left in your day. And we certainly can't do a video about how exhausting narcissists are without mentioning these endless arguments that they take us on. Like I said earlier, you can choose between sitting and listening to them talk at you for 3 hours, or you can start a 3-hour argument. And I don't know why I always come up with the 3-hour mark, but that seems about right. They can certainly go on longer than that. These endless arguments can go on for months or even years, just picking back up where they left off. In my opinion, the arguments that we have with narcissists are the hallmark of the problem with narcissism. In my experience, this was the most exhausting, pointless, frustrating, and confusing thing to experience with a pathological narcissist. These endless, nonsensical, pointless arguments were what made me stop and think, what is wrong with this person? I think if it wasn't for the way narcissists argue, I may have never realized that anything was really as wrong as things were. These arguments are so exhausting for so many reasons. They take up an enormous amount of time. They go nowhere. They take up an enormous amount of our mental energy because we're trying to understand why this person's upset. But we're spending hours trying to understand what it is that we're even arguing about. And these arguments just go in endless circles. And we're constantly being vilified in these arguments and made to feel like we're doing something wrong or we've committed some egregious crime. And that's very stressful, which is also very exhausting, to be made to be the villain in an argument that we can't even understand. And then these arguments can go on so long that we can actually literally lose sleep, which of course is exhausting. It's exhausting to lose sleep because these arguments can stretch out into 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and have never gotten anywhere. We will never make any progress in these arguments we have with narcissists because we can't see that the whole point of the argument is the argument. And until we see that, we can use an enormous amount of our mental energy trying to solve this problem that actually doesn't even exist. And even when the argument ends, even if it doesn't go till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we might be left so upset by these arguments that we might have trouble sleeping even when they're over. We might be left ruminating over, what was that argument all about? What was the point of that? And, oh, maybe I should have said that. Maybe I should have said this. Oh, maybe this would have gotten my point across. And we might stay awake all night trying to think of how we could have better handled an argument that really there is no good way to handle other than just leaving and not participating in it. These endless, pointless, confusing arguments cause stress They can make us very angry because we are totally invalidated and treated as if we're crazy, and we are vilified, and we are accused of things that we haven't done or accused of motives we don't have. So there can be a lot of anger, and a lot of anger with no resolution. We can also be very hurt. These arguments are very hurtful. I mean, they can turn into really nasty arguments where we're just insulted and just treated like we don't matter, and we can be called names and just made to feel like the most worthless human being on earth for no good reason. No matter how much we've done, no matter how much time we've already spent trying to make this person happy, now we're stuck in a 3-hour argument about what a terrible, worthless human being we are. These arguments are confusing, and this confusion is mentally draining because we're spending a lot of time trying to understand, what was all that about? Wait, what started that argument? What were we arguing about? What could I have done to prevent that? Or what could I have said to make that a little bit more palatable of an experience? And of course, these arguments can also cause fear. And this is also emotionally draining, to be living in fear of the next argument, to be afraid that something we say or some little thing we do is going to start the next argument, the next 3-hour argument. And maybe we've stolen a little pocket of time to do something for ourselves. And now, oops, we've accidentally triggered something that's going to take up the rest of our day, and any plans that we had are now shot. And this can lead into the next way that narcissists are exhausting, and that is they cause us to walk on eggshells. They cause us to live with a hyper-vigilant mentality because these arguments or these rants they go on, it can be really hard to understand what started it, what triggered them. In reality, narcissists are looking for an excuse to start that argument. They're looking for a reason to start yelling at you if they're in the mood to do that. And they're often in the mood to yell and rant, or just intimidate you, insult you, or just make you feel like a worthless piece of crap. And whatever mood they're in, if they're in the mood to do any of these things, they are looking for a reason to start doing it. And that's why to you, it feels so confusing, and it can be so hard to understand what you might do next to start that next rant or that next argument, until you realize that it really is completely random and it really has nothing to do with anything you did. This unpredictable, volatile rage that seems to just come out of random places can cause us to become very hyper vigilant and confused. And this is very draining when we're spending every minute of every day in our own home looking out for that next possible trigger, not realizing that they're looking out for it too. They're looking out for the first excuse that they can find. And so you really don't have as much control over it as they make you feel like you do. Like, let's say one day you clean the house and you use pine-scented cleaner to clean the counters, and they freak out and fly off the handle because you should know that they hate pine, that the scent of pine makes them sick, and you don't even pay attention. You don't even care. How could you not know? They've told you 1,000 times. How could you be so inconsiderate? Where, you know, from your perspective, you had no idea they hated the scent of pine. And you've been using this same cleaner for the last 2 years and they never said anything about it before, but that's your fault because obviously you don't pay attention and you don't care about them, and they have told you 100 times, but something must be wrong with your memory. So no matter how unreasonable and nonsensical and confusing their rants can be, it's somehow always going to be your fault. You should have been paying better attention. And so of course this leaves you walking on eggshells and paying attention to every tiny, minute little detail of something that might possibly set them off next, because no matter how hard you try, no matter how much energy you pour into preventing the next rant, there's always going to be another one. If their temper explodes on you because of a pine-scented cleaner you used that you've been using for years, they could explode on you over literally anything, and this is emotionally exhausting. Another way that narcissists drain our energy is putting us in a zone where we're constantly trying to solve mysteries. And depending on the type of narcissist or the personality of the narcissist that you're with, this can happen in several different ways. Some narcissists will actually have us wondering, where are they? Who are they with? What are they up to? What are they doing? I think this is a little more extreme of an example, but also quite common with narcissists. I mean, maybe they're having an affair, or maybe they're engaged in illegal activities. Maybe they have an addiction to something that they're hiding from you. Or maybe there's just some place they want to go that they just don't feel like they need to tell you about. But when you're with a narcissist, there's always a feeling that something's not quite right. Something's going on that you don't know about. And it can really leave you with a very unsettling feeling. And even with narcissists that aren't actually sneaking off and having affairs or doing illegal activities, there's still this feeling that something's not quite adding up. Something's going on that you aren't aware of. Something is off or wrong with the narcissist, him or herself. These relationships don't start off this way. They start off feeling safe. They start off with our trust earned, probably a little too quickly, but they almost always eventually turn into some sort of mystery. This can lead to us recording our conversations. This can lead to us going through their things. This can lead to us doing things that other people would criticize us for, or things that the narcissist could turn around and say, you don't trust me? Really? You're following me around? Really? You're checking into my messages? Which, in my opinion, for the record, if you get to the point where you feel compelled to start stalking somebody or spying on them, basically, I don't think there's enough trust in that relationship to make those things worth doing. I think that if you lack enough trust in your partner, that you feel compelled to start checking up on them and looking through their things and spying on them or whatever, I think that is the problem. That really can't be fixed by you finding something. But I do understand the compulsion to do that, because you can feel so incredibly confused and feel an overwhelming need to understand what it is that you're not seeing, what it is that you're missing. And even if we're not taking it to this kind of an extreme, having a relationship with a narcissist can lead to us just Googling their behavior. And that's exhausting enough, trying to understand why they say the things they say and why they do the things they do and why they get so angry over nothing and why they lead us on endless pointless arguments. We can spend a lot of time just trying to understand their behavior, if not trying to understand what it is that they're up to. And personal relationships shouldn't be spent with us trying to solve mysteries of what the person we're in a relationship with is up to. This is emotionally draining and exhausting. Relationships are supposed to be a place where we're built up, where we form connections, where we're getting something out of the relationship and we're giving something back. There is supposed to be reciprocal benefits for people in relationships. Otherwise, really, what is the point? And even without all these specific examples of how narcissists drain us of our energy and how exhausting it is to be in relationships with them, abuse itself alone is draining and exhausting. To live in a situation where we're being emotionally or physically abused is a place where we really can never let our guard down, where we really can never just relax and recharge and do things for ourselves that build us up. We're constantly on defense. We are feeling constant threat. Living with the stress that abuse causes limits our mental capacity and our emotional capacity. It can make it very difficult to do simple things like remember conversations, or to listen to people that are talking to us, or to concentrate on important tasks. It can get to the point where it's difficult for us to do our jobs at work, or difficult for us to listen to a friend that's having just a normal conversation with us. We can get to the point where we have a hard time making decisions. We can get to the point where people start wondering what's wrong with us. And how can we even explain how most of the capacity of our brain is being taken up just trying to survive a relationship that we're in? And the worst part of all of this, as exhausting as it is as much as narcissists take from us, as much energy as we expend, as much of our heart and soul that we pour into these relationships until there's nothing left, and then we pour some more, there's nothing that we ever get back. These relationships take everything from us. They drain us emotionally and mentally and even physically, and we get nothing in return. there's this constant illusion that if we just keep trying and we keep pushing and we keep pouring ourselves into this relationship, that someday it's going to click. Someday it's going to be worth it. Someday we're going to get a little bit back, or someday we're going to get through to this person, or we're going to finally solve that argument. We're going to finally figure out what it is that this person's so upset about. We're going to finally solve that mystery. We're going to finally be able to do enough. We're finally going to be able to predict the next ranting rage, and we're finally going to crack this code, and it's all going to be worth it. And we're finally going to get that love that we got in the beginning of the relationship, or all those great feelings that we got in the beginning that hooked us into this relationship in the first place. These relationships are endless hamster wheels, and it can take a very, very long time for us to finally realize that we are never going to get anything back for all the energy that we pour into these relationships. We're never even going to get gratitude or even recognition of the effort that we're pouring into these relationships. Narcissists are only ever going to see failure in all the efforts that we put into the relationship. And no matter how much you do for them today, even if you manage to make them happy today, by tomorrow, that will all be erased. It will all be forgotten. Every day is a new day and a new opportunity to disappoint somebody that lives in chronic disappointment, to disappoint somebody for whom nothing will ever be enough. If you're looking for a way to support my channel, BetterHelp is offering 10% off of your first month of service if you sign up using the link below in my description. And if you sign up using the link below in my description, I'll get a one-time commission. So that'll help me out, and it will help you out as well if that's something that you've been thinking about doing. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.